Welcome to Two Witness Teaching Program. Two Witness, a Bible teaching program to change and transform people. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Let's dive into it.
Chapter 3 is going to focus more on a battle that Elijah gets kind of pulled into, his involvement, and after that, many more miracles. Now in chapter 3, Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign in Israel. Remember in chapter 1, it was Ahaziah, Ahab's son, but he didn't last very long. He fell and was injured, sought the gods of the land, and he died. So now Jehoram, another son, begins to reign. Jehoshaphat is still the king of Judah. We ended 1 Kings with Jehoshaphat in battle with Ahab. Verse 2, he, Jehoram, wrought evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father and like his mother, for he put away the image of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he cleaved to the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom. And Mesha, the king of Moab, was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool. This was the tribute they paid to Israel. But it came to pass when Ahab was dead that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. Same thing we saw in chapter 1. King Jehoram went out of Samaria the same time and numbered all Israel, counting his men of war. He went and sent to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, saying, the king of Moab has rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and my horses as thy horses. And he said, which way shall we go up? And he answered, the way through the wilderness of Edom. So the king of Israel went, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom. So now Edom joins them as well. They fetched a compass of 7 days' journey, and there was no water for the host, and for the cattle that followed them. And the king of Israel said, alas, that the Lord has called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. Verse 11, this sounds familiar, but Jehoshaphat said, is there not here a prophet of the Lord, that we may inquire of the Lord by him? And one of the king of Israel's servants answered and said, here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah, his servant. And Jehoshaphat said, the word of the Lord is with him. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. Elisha said to the king of Israel, what have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of thy father and to the prophets of thy mother. And the king of Israel said to him, nay, for the Lord hath called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. They're feeling very down about this. Elisha said, as the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, I would not look toward thee, nor see thee. So he's only going to speak because Jehoshaphat is there, because he is serving God. He's a good king. 15, bring me a minstrel. It came to pass when the minstrel played that the hand of the Lord came upon him. And he said, thus saith the Lord, make this valley full of ditches. For thus saith the Lord, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain. Yet that valley shall be filled with water, that you may drink, both you and your cattle and your beasts. So miracle number 1 here, he's going to give them water without rain. And this is but a light thing in the sight of the Lord. He will deliver the Moabites also into your hand. So number 2, we see what the Lord is doing for them here. You shall smite every fenced city, every good choice city, shall fell every good tree, and stop all wells of water, and mar every good piece of land with stones. And it came to pass in the morning, when the meat offering was offered, that behold, there came water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water. When all the Moabites heard that the kings were come up to fight against them, they gathered all that were able to put on armor, and upward, and stood on the border. And they rose up early in the morning, and the sun shone upon the water. And the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood. So I picture this as almost the reflection of the sunrise on the water that God had filled the land with. And they said, "This is blood. The kings are surely slain. They have smitten one another. Now therefore, Moab, to the spoil." When they came to the camp of Israel, the Israelites rose up and smote the Moabites, so that they fled before them. But they went forward, smiting the Moabites, even in their country. They beat down the cities and every good piece of land, and cast every man his stone, and filled it. They stopped all the wells of water, and felled all the good trees. Verse 26, when the king of Moab saw the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew swords to break through, even unto the king of Edom, but they could not. Now verse 27 is a little shocking. Then he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead, the king of Moab. So an older son he offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall. And there was great indignation against Israel, and they departed from him and returned to their own land.
All right, chapter 4. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets, those that followed the prophets, they were serving the true God, unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen. I don't have the money to pay our creditor, so he's coming to take my sons to be slaves or servants for him to pay the debt. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me what thou hast in thy house. And she said, Thy handmaid hath not anything in the house, but just a pot of oil. That's really the only thing valuable that I have. Then he said, Go, borrow thee vessels abroad of thy neighbors, and even empty vessels, and borrow not a few. So go get all the containers that you can get, empty containers from everyone that you know. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So you're going to pour out of this pot into those containers, and once the container is full, set it aside. Full, set it aside. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. All of our containers are filled up. And then the oil stayed, or the oil stopped out of that pot. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go, sell the oil, and pay the debt, and live thou and thy children of the rest. It's a good passage to show God cares about us, even the least of us. He'll make a way for us. Verse number 8 begins another story. It fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem, where there was a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was that as oft as he passed by, he turned in to eat bread at her house. And she said unto her husband, Behold now, I perceive that this is a holy man of God, which passes by us continually. And I like that she recognized him as being holy. Meaning he serves God, he does what's right, not afraid to call him holy. Let us make a little chamber, or a little bedroom, I pray thee, on the wall of our house, and let us set for him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, a chair, and a candlestick. And it shall be that whenever he comes to us, that he shall turn in thither, or when he passes this way, we'll have a room for him to stay in. I'd love to have this man of God stay with us. It would be a blessing to us. And it fell on a day that he came. So Elisha's passing by, and he turned into that chamber, in that bedroom, and he lay there. And so Elisha said to Gehazi, his servant, call this Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said unto him, Say now unto her, Behold, thou hast been careful for us with all this care. You've taken care of us so well, given us such good hospitality. What is to be done for thee? What wouldest thou be spoken for to the king? He could speak to Jehoshaphat. Would you like to be spoken to the captain of the host? Put in a good word for you. And she answered and said, I dwell among my own people. No, I don't need anything. I'm well provided for among my own family. And so Elisha said, What then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, Verily or truly, she has no child, and her husband is old. And he said, Call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. And Elisha said, About this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, Nay, my lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thine handmaid. And the woman conceived, and bare a son at that season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life. So she bears a son, and when the child is grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. He's going to work in the field. And the child said to his father, My head, my head. And he said to the lad, Carry him to his mother, said to a lad. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon, and then died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God in that bedroom that she had made. And she shut the door upon the child and went out. And she called unto her husband and said, Send me, I pray thee, one of the young men and one of the asses, that I may run to the man of God and come again. And her husband said, Wherefore wilt thou go to him today? Why are you going after him? It is neither new moon or Sabbath. It's not a time, any special time or day. And she said, It shall be well. So then she saddled an ass and said to her servant, Drive and go forward. Slack not thy riding for me, except I bid thee, or go as fast as you can, unless I tell you to slow down. So she went and came unto the man of God at Mount Carmel. And it came to pass, when the man of God saw her afar off, that he said to Gehazi his servant, Behold, yonder is that Shunammite. Run now, I pray thee, to meet her, and say unto her, Is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with the child? And she answered, It is well, to the servant. She wasn't going to speak to her husband about it or the servant about it. She's going to the prophet. That's who she wants to talk to. And when she came to the man of God at the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to thrust her away. And the man of God said, Let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her. And the Lord hath hid it from me, and hath not told me. So Elisha doesn't know what's wrong. God hasn't given him any insight. Then she said, Did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, Don't deceive me? Then he said to Gehazi, Gird up thy loins, and take my staff in thine hand. So now Elisha knows something's wrong with the child. Go thy way. If he's telling Gehazi, go in his stead, go back to her house. If any man, you meet any man, salute him not, and if any salute thee, answer him not again, and lay my staff upon the face of the child. So he's going to send Gehazi in his place to go revive the child. But in verse 30 we see the mother of the child said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. She knows that God answers Elisha, and she won't leave him. She's not going back with Gehazi. And so she moves Elisha to go to her house. And she's not going to let go. And Elisha arose and followed her. And Gehazi passed on before them. So he goes to the house first and lays the staff upon the face of the child. But there was neither voice nor hearing, so that the child was not revived. Wherefore he went again to meet him and told Elisha, saying, The child is not awaked. And when Elisha came into the house, behold, the child was dead and laid upon his bed. He went in, therefore, and shut the door upon them twain. There's only Elisha and the child, and he prayed unto the Lord. Now, this is something we also see in the New Testament Jesus doing when he was raising the dead. He would go in and just be maybe his closest disciples, just those who have faith that can be there for this working of such a miracle. And so Elisha is here, just him and the child here, praying unto God. And something like this are the greatest miracles of all, to revive someone from the dead. You don't want any doubt or unbelief or distraction or anything. This is just going to be between Elisha and God on behalf of that child. So he's in that room, it's shut, no one else is in there, he's praying unto the Lord. Verse 34, he went up and lay upon the child, and put his mouth upon his mouth, his eyes upon his eyes, his hands upon his hands, and he stretched himself upon the child. And the flesh of the child waxed warm from Elisha's own body. Then he returned and went into the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him, on the child again. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. And he called Gehazi, and said, Call this Shunammite. So he called her. And when she was come in unto him, he said, Take up thy son. And she went in and fell at his feet, and bowed herself to the ground, and took up her son, and went out. Verse 38, Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth or a famine in the land, and the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servant, Set on the great pot, and seethe pottage for the sons of the prophets. Or we're all together here. You're going to find this many times. The followers of the prophets are all hanging out together, fellowshipping together. Now they want to eat some food together, although there's a famine in the land. And so one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds in his lap, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. So then they poured out of the pot to the men to eat. And it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O thou man of God, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. But Elisha said, Then bring meal, or give me some flour. And so he cast the flour into the pot, and then he said, Pour out for the people, that they may eat. And there was no harm in the pot. 42, And there came a man from Baal Shalazah, and brought the man of God bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn in the husk thereof. And he said, Give unto the people, that they may eat. And his servitor said, What should I set before 100 men? He said again, Give the people, that they may eat. For thus saith the Lord, They shall eat, and shall leave thereof. So he set before them, and they did eat, and left thereof, according to the word of the Lord.
Chapter 5 is a well-known story of a man of Syria, a Gentile. Naaman, the captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. The Syrians had gone out by companies, and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said to her mistress, Would God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. So this little maid knows who Elijah is. One went in and told his lord, saying, Thus and thus said the maid that is in the land of Israel. So the king of Syria is going to help Naaman, the captain of his host. He said, Go, I will send a letter to the king of Israel. He departed and took with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of raiment. He brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, Now, when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman my servant to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. It came to pass, when the king of Israel read the letter, he rent his clothes and said, Am I God to kill and make alive, that this man does send unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, see how he seeks a quarrel against me. He's thinking naturally here that he's being provoked into a battle. It was so when Elisha the man of God heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know there is a prophet in Israel. So he's speaking faith that he'll be healed. Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall become again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. But Naaman was wroth, and went away, and said, Behold, I thought he will surely come out to me, and stand, and call on the name of the Lord his God, and strike his hand over the place, and restore the leper. Verse 12, Are not Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he's thinking naturally too, that it's the water that's going to cleanse him. What's really going to cleanse him of his leprosy?
His
obedience.
faith in God's word and
his
obedience.
faith in God's word and his act of obedience. It's not about the water. It's not about waving your hand over the place. So he turned and went away in a rage. It's not how he wanted it to happen. His servants came near and spake to him and said, My father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldst thou not have done it? How much rather then when he said to thee, Wash and be clean? It's so simple, just do it. He went down, he dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan. He humbled himself to do what God had commanded, according to the saying of the man of God, and his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. He returned to the man of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant. He wanted to give him all the money and clothes that he had brought. But he said, As the Lord liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. He urged him to take it, but he refused. Naaman said, Shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules' burden of earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offerings, nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Lord. But in this thing the Lord pardon my servant, that when my master goes to the house of Rimmon, an idol or a false god, to worship there, and he leans on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, when I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardon thy servant in this thing. It's because in verse 19, Elisha says to him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way. The rest of the chapter concerns Gehazi, his servant. Well, he says, Behold, my master has spared Naaman the Syrian in not receiving at his hands that which he brought. But as the Lord liveth, I will run after him and take somewhat of him. So Gehazi followed after Naaman. When Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from his chariot to meet him and said, Is all well? He said, All is well. My master hath sent me, saying, Behold, even now there come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments. He's lying, isn't he, in the name of Elisha? Naaman said, Be content, take 2 talents. He urged him and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of garments, laid them on 2 of his servants, and they bare them before him. When he came to the tower, he took them from their hand, bestowed them in the house. He let the men go, and they departed. 25, he went in and stood before his master. Elisha says to him, From where are you coming, Gehazi? Thy servant went nowhere. He doesn't take the opportunity. He multiplies his sins, and he lies. Elisha says to him, Went not my heart with thee when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money and to receive garments, and olive yards and vineyards and sheep and oxen and men servants and maid servants? The leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper, as white as snow.
Chapter 6. The sons of the prophets said unto Elisha, Behold now the place where we dwell, with thee is too strait for us. It's too small. Our quarters are too small. They wanted to go out and build something bigger. Let us go, we pray thee, unto Jordan, and take thence every man a beam, and let us make a place there where we may dwell. And so Elisha said, Go ye. That sounds good. Let's go build larger quarters. And one man said, Be content, I pray thee, to go with thy servants. And Elisha said, I will go along too. And so he went with them, and when they came to Jordan, they cut down wood. But as one was felling a beam, the axe head fell into the water, and he cried and said, Alas, master, or Elisha, for it was borrowed, and now I've lost the head of the axe. And the man of God said, Where fell it? And he showed him the place, and he cut down a stick, and cast it in thither, and the iron, or the axe head, did come up, and it was floating on the water. And therefore he said, Take it up to thee, and he put out his hand and took it. All right, verse 8. Then the king of Syria warred against Israel, and took counsel with his servants, saying, and such a camp shall be my camp. And the man of God sent unto the king of Israel, saying, Beware that thou pass not such a place, for thither the Syrians are come down. And the king of Israel sent to the place which the man of God told him and warned him of, and saved himself there not once or twice.
I love that.
So Elisha's warning the king of Israel that where not to go, because the Syrians may get him. And so he has this intelligence, but this intelligence isn't coming from men, it's coming from God to Elisha to the king. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was sore troubled for this thing. And he called his servants and said unto them, Will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? Surely there's a traitor here. All my plans are foiled, and it must be that someone's leaking the information. And one of his servants said, None, my lord, no one's a traitor to you, O king, but Elisha, the prophet that is in Israel. He tells the king of Israel the words that thou speak in thy bedchamber, or in secret. The things that you tell in secret, God tells to Elisha. And so Elisha goes and tells the king of Israel. And so the king of Syria said, Go and spy where Elisha is, that I may send and fetch him. And it was told him, saying, Behold, he is in Dothan. Therefore sent he great thither horses and chariots and a great host. A whole army is coming out to capture Elisha. And they came by night and compassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, Alas, my master, how shall we do, or what are we going to do? There's an army come out against us. And Elisha answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes, open the eyes of the servant, that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man so that he could actually see. He had a vision into the supernatural, the spiritual realm. And he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. Verse 18, And when they came down to him, Elisha prayed unto the Lord. So the army's coming closer, coming down to Elisha. And Elisha prays to God and says, Smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. I think that it's more of a confusion is meant here by the blindness, not being aware of where they are and who they're talking to. But either way, it's fine. It's God's intervened here, and they can't understand what's going on. Verse 19, Elisha said unto them, This is not the way. This is not where you wanted to go, and neither is this the city where you wanted to be. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. Well, Elisha's the man that they seek, but he led them to Samaria. He's going to lead them to be captives to the army of Israel. And it came to pass, when they were come into Samaria, that Elisha said, Lord, open the eyes of these men, that they may see. And the Lord opened their eyes. I think it's the eyes of their understanding. And they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. And the king of Israel said unto Elisha, when he saw them, My father, shall I smite them? Shall I smite them? Shall I kill them? The men that you've delivered to me, shall I kill them? And Elisha answered, Thou shalt not kill them. Wouldest thou smite those whom thou hast taken captive with thy sword and with thy bow? Or you've had these men delivered to you. You haven't had to fight them. Are you just going to, like sitting ducks, just pick them off? No. He says, no. You shouldn't do that. Instead, Elisha says, set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master. Show them hospitality and send them home. So verse 23, he prepared great provision for them, and then when they had eaten and drunk, he sent them away, and they went to their master. So the bands of Syria came no more into the land of Israel. Verse 24, we're going to... It came to pass after this, sometime after this, that Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, gathered up all his host and went up and besieged Samaria, or Israel. And there was a great famine in Samaria, and behold, they besieged it until an ass's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, and the fourth part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 pieces of silver. And as the king of Israel was passing by upon the wall, there cried a woman unto him, saying, Help, my lord, O king. And he said, If the Lord do not help thee, when shall I help thee? What can I do, just being king during a famine? What can I do if the God doesn't help us? Can I help you out of the barn floor or out of the wine press? There's nothing left. There's no food in the kingdom. I can't help you. God is the only one that can help us all. 28, and the king said unto her, What aileth thee? What is your particular problem? And she answered and said, This woman said unto me, Give thy son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son, and did eat him. And I said unto her on the next day, Give me your son, that we may eat him. And now she's hid her son. Verse 30, it came to pass, when the king heard these words, that his own people have turned into cannibals, that he rent his clothes. He was terribly grieved by this. And he passed upon the wall, and the people looked, and behold, he had sackcloth within upon his flesh. And he said, God, do so and more also to me, if the head of Elisha, the son of Shaphat, shall stand on him this day. Verse 32, Elisha sat in his house, and the elders sat with him. And the king sent a man from before him, but ere the messenger came to him, Elisha said to the elders, You see, this son of a murderer hath sent to take away mine head. Or God revealed it to him that there's a man coming from the king, sent to kill him. Look, when the messenger cometh, shut the door, and hold him fast at the door. And is not the sound of his master's feet behind him? Verse 33, And while he yet talked with them, behold, the messenger did come down unto him. And he said, Behold, this evil is of the Lord. What should I wait for the Lord any longer? Or chapter 7, verse 1. Then Elisha said, Hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, Tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. Then the Lord, whose hand the king leaned, answered the man of God, and said, Behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be? Or how can this be unless God were to open up the windows of heaven and pour out food in abundance? And Elisha said to him, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof. Now we have the story of 4 leprous men. They're sitting at the gate of Samaria. They're not really in the city, and they're not outside the city, and they're sitting there. And they said one to another, Why sit we here till we die? They're reasoning this out, and in verse 4 they say, Will we enter into the city? Then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. If we sit here, we die also. Now therefore come, and let us fall unto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live. If they kill us, then we but die, which was going to be our fate anyway. So they rose up in the twilight to go unto the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, there was no man there. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots, and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, Lo, the king of Israel hath hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come unto us. Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents and their horses and their asses, and even their camp as it was, and fled for their life. Verse 8, And when these lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent, and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it, and came again and entered into another tent, and carried thence also, and went and hid it. So they're gathering up, collecting all these things, and hiding them, stashing them away for themselves. Then they said one to another, We do not well. Their conscience is bothering them. They know that their kinsmen, their fellow Israelites are in the city starving. They say, We do not do well. This day is a day of good tidings. God has delivered them. The army's gone. And we hold our peace. We keep all these good things to ourselves. So their conscience is bothering them. They know they should do the right thing and tell the rest of the people in the city. If we tarry till the morning light, some mischief will come upon us, or some judgment will fall upon us. God will not be happy with us, and He will judge us for keeping all this to ourselves when our own brethren die. Now therefore come, that we may go and tell the king's household. So they came and called unto the porter of the city, and they told them, saying, We come to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no man there, neither voice of man, but horses tied and asses tied, and the tents as they were. And he called the porters and told it to the king's house within. And the king arose in the night and said unto his servants, I will now show you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we be hungry. Therefore are they gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, When they come out of the city, we shall catch them alive and get into the city. The king of Israel thinks it's a trick, that they have left all these goods so that they'll come out of the city, and then they'll capture them and go in and take the city. And one of his servants prayed and said, Let some take, I pray thee, 5 of the horses that remain, which are left in the city, and let us send and see. Verse 14, So they took thereof 2 chariot horses, and the king sent after the host of the Syrians, saying, Go and see. And they went after them unto Jordan, and lo, all the way was full of garments and vessels, which the Syrians had cast away in their haste. And the messengers returned and told the king. And the people went out. So we can imagine, as this noise went abroad, that throughout the city, that there's food, there's goods, there's all that you could want outside the city, that there's going to be a stampede getting out of the city to get all those things. People went out and spoiled the tents of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. And the king appointed the Lord, on whose hand he leaned, to have the charge of the gate. And the people trode upon him in the gate, and he died, as the man of God had said, who spake when the king came down to him. So this is verse 17. Elisha foretold that this man would die. He would see this come to pass. He didn't believe. He was a skeptic. And Elisha said, You'll see it happen, but you will not partake of it. Let's go on to chapter 8. Chapter 8, we see that Elisha tells a woman that there's going to be 7 years of famine. And then she takes that warning and she leaves. She goes into another country for 7 years. She comes back, and the king gives her all of her possessions back. So God is working through Elisha to save his people and to spare them from things like famine. And she goes away, and she comes back, and she has all her possessions back again. Verse 7, Elisha came to Damascus, and Ben-hadad, the king of Syria, was sick. And it was told him, saying, The man of God is come hither. Now Ben-hadad had already sent armies against Israel, to fight against Israel, but yet when Ben-hadad is sick, then he wants to get a word from Elisha. He knows that God's working through Elisha. He's seen it as he's tried to oppose Israel. And the king said unto Hazael, take a present in thine hand, and go meet the man of God, and inquire of the Lord by him, saying, shall I recover of this disease? So King Benadad sends Hazael, his servant, to ask the prophet, should he recover of the disease that he had. Verse 10, Elisha said unto him, go say unto the king, thou mayest certainly recover, howbeit the Lord hath showed me that he shall surely die. Yes, you would recover from this sickness, but you are going to die. And he settled his countenance steadfastly until he was ashamed, and the man of God wept. So Elisha wept, and Hazael said, why weepest, my Lord? And he answered, because I know the evil that thou wilt do unto the children of Israel. Their strongholds wilt thou set on fire, and their young men wilt thou slay with the sword, and will dash their children, and rip up their women with child. And Hazael said, but what, is that thy servant a dog, that he should do this great thing, all these great evils? And Elisha answered, the Lord has showed me that thou shalt be king over Syria. So Hazael goes back to his master, and I'm going to tell him what Elisha said. He departed from Elisha, and came to his master, and said to him, what said Elisha to thee? And he answered, he told me that thou shouldest surely recover. And it came to pass on the morrow that he took a thick cloth, and dipped it in water, and spread it on his face, so that he died, and Hazael reigned in his stead. Okay, verse 16, we see that Jehoram becomes king in Israel. In verse 19, we see that God would not destroy Judah for his servant's sake. God had made promises to keep Judah, the tribe of Judah, intact so that the Messiah could come through that line. Verse 19, yet the Lord would not destroy Judah for David his servant's sake, and he promised him to give him always a light, and to his children. Down verse 25, Ahaziah becomes king in Judah. He's an evil king. He walked in verse 27, he walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and did evil in the sight of the Lord, as did the house of Ahab, for he was the son-in-law of the house of Ahab. And we see some intermixing between the families of the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. Chapter 9, Elisha the prophet called one of the children of the prophets, and said unto him, gird up thy loins, and take this box of oil in thy hand, and go to Ramoth Gilead. And when thou comest thither, look out there Jehu, and go in, and make him arise from among his brethren, and carry him to an inner chamber. Then take the box of oil, and pour it on his head, and say, thus saith the Lord, I have anointed thee king over Israel. Then open the door, and flee, and tarry not. So the young man goes to Jehu, and verse 6, he arose and went into the house, and he poured the oil on his head, and said unto him, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I have anointed thee king over the people of the Lord, even Israel. And his mission, in verse 7, thou shalt smite the house of Ahab thy master, that I, the Lord, may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of the Lord at the hand of Jezebel. For the whole house of Ahab shall perish, and I will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel. In verse 10, the dog shall eat Jezebel in the portion of Jezreel, and there shall be none to bury her. And he opened the door and fled. So the messenger from the prophet Elisha goes back to Elisha. And Jehu came forth to the servants of his Lord, and one said unto him, is all well? Wherefore came this mad fellow to thee? So this religious fanatic has come and wanted to speak with you. And what did he tell you? Is everything okay? And Jehu answers back to them, you know the man in his communication. Surely you must know what he's told me. And they all said, no, it is false. We don't know what he said. Tell us what he said. Tell us now. And he said, thus and thus spake he to me, saying, thus saith the Lord, I have anointed thee king over Israel. Then they hasted and took every man his garment and put it under him on the top of the stairs and blew the trumpet, saying, Jehu is king. Jehu goes to fight Joram to take his throne from him. And Joram had just returned from battle with the Syrians, so he was on the mend. We see this in verses 14 and 15. Let's look at verse 15. King Joram was returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Syrians had given him when he fought with Hazael, king of Syria. And Jehu said, If it be your minds, then let none go forth nor escape out of the city to go to tell it in Jezreel. So Jehu rode in a chariot and went to Jezreel, for Joram lay there. And Ahaziah, king of Judah, came down to see Joram. So you see here that as Jehu approaches the city, there's a watchman in the tower, verse 17, in Jezreel. And he spied the company of Jehu as he came, and said, I see a company. And Joram said, Take a horseman, and send to meet thee, and let him say, Is it peace? So there went one on horseback to meet him, and said, Thus saith the king, Is it peace? And Jehu said, What hast thou to do with peace? Turn thee behind me. And this turn thee behind me, he's saying to the watchman, Come and join me. If there's not going to be peace, I'm overtaking the king, I'm rising up against him, turn in and follow me. And the watchman told, saying, The messenger came, but he cometh not again. So he sent out a messenger, the messenger joins Jehu and his people that are coming against the city. Then he sent out a second on horseback and came to them and said, Thus saith the king, Is it peace? And Jehu answered, What hast thou to do with peace? Turn thee behind me, or follow me. And he does. And he's driving furiously to meet Joram. Verse 21, And Joram said, Make ready. And his chariot was made ready, and Joram, king of Israel, and Ahaziah, king of Judah, went out, each in his chariot. And they went out against Jehu, and met him in the portion of Naboth the Jezreelite. And it came to pass, when Joram saw Jehu, that he said, Is it peace, Jehu? And he answered, What peace, so long as the whoredoms of thy mother Jezebel and her witchcrafts are so many? And Joram turned his heads and fled, and said to Ahaziah, There is treachery, O Ahaziah. And Jehu drew a bow with his full strength, and smote Jehoram between his arms, and the arrow went out at his heart, and he sunk down in his chariot. So we see the death of Joram. Verse 27, But when Ahaziah, king of Judah, saw this, he fled by the way of the garden house. And Jehu followed after him, and said, Smite him also in the chariot. And they did so at the going up of Gur, which is by Ibleam, and he fled to Megiddo and died there. Verse 30, And when Jehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her face, and tired her head, and looked out at her window. And as Jehu entered in at the gate, she said, Had Zimri peace, who slew his master? In verse 32, he lifted up his face to the window, and said, Who is on my side? Who? And there looked out to him 2 or 3 eunuchs. And he said, Throw her down. So they threw her down, and some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall and on the horses, and he trode her underfoot. So Jezebel is put to death, just as Elisha said it would happen. Verse 35, They went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull and the feet and the palms of her hands. Wherefore they came again and told him. And he said, This is the word of the Lord, which he spake by the servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, In the portion of Jezreel shall dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel. So now Jehu is going to pursue Ahab's family further and kill all of them. Chapter 10, verse 1. Ahab had 70 sons in Samaria, and Jehu wrote letters and sent to Samaria unto the rulers of Jezreel, to the elders, to them that brought up Ahab's children. He says in verse 3, Look even out the best and meetest of your master's sons, and set him on his father's throne, and fight for your master's house. But they were exceedingly afraid, and said, Behold, 2 kings stood not before him. How then shall we stand? And he that was over the house, and he that was over the city, the elders also, and the bringers up of the children, said to Jehu, saying, We are thy servants, and we will do all that thou bid us. We will not make any king. Do thou that which is good in thine eyes. Then he wrote a letter the second time to them, saying, If ye be mine, and if you will hearken unto my voice, take ye the heads of the men, your master's sons, and come to me to Jezreel by tomorrow this time. Now the king's sons, being 70 persons, were with the great men of the city, which brought them up. And it came to pass, when the letter came to them, that they took the king's sons, and slew 70 persons, and put their heads in baskets, and sent them to Jezreel. So in verse 9 we see Jehu says, he rose up against the king and slew them, but who slew all these? The children. It was those who were raising them. So he's saying, we all had a part in this, and that this judgment is actually from God. In verse 10. Verse 11, So Jehu slew all that remained of the house of Ahab in Jezreel, and all his great men and his kinfolks and his priests, until he left him none remaining. Jehu then brings judgment to more of Ahaziah's family. We see in verses 13 and 14. Let's go on to verse 17. And when he came to Samaria, he slew all that remained unto Ahab in Samaria, till he had destroyed him according to the saying of the Lord, which he spake to Elijah. And Jehu gathered all the people together, and said unto them, Ahab served Baal a little, but Jehu shall serve him much. Verse 19, Now therefore call unto me all the prophets of Baal, all his servants and all his priests, and let none be wanting or lacking. For I have a great sacrifice to do to Baal, and whosoever shall be wanting shall not live. Those who don't show up of the Baal worshippers, they're going to be put to death, because this is important. This is part of the Baal worship that we need to do. But Jehu did it in subtlety, to the intent that he might destroy the worshippers of Baal. And Jehu said, Proclaim a solemn assembly for Baal. And they proclaimed it. All the worshippers came, all the Baal worshippers came, and there was not a man left that came not. Verse 23, When Jehu went, and Jehonadab, the son of Rechab, into the house of Baal, and said unto the worshippers of Baal, Search and look that there be here with you none of the servants of the Lord, but the worshippers of Baal only. And they verified, nope, there's no people that serve Jehovah God there. Verse 25, And it came to pass, as soon as he had made an end of the offering, the burnt offering for Baal, that Jehu said to the guard and to the captains, Go in and slay them, let none come forth. And they smote them with the edge of the sword, and the guard and the captains cast them out, and went to the city of the house of Baal. And they brought forth the images out of the house of Baal, and burned them. And they brake down the images of Baal, and brake down the house of Baal, and made it a draught house unto this day. Thus Jehu destroyed Baal out of Israel. Now, verse 29, we see howbeit the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, Jehu departed not from after them, to wit, the golden calves that were in Bethel, and that were in Dan. Verse 30, The Lord said unto Jehu, Because thou hast done well in executing that which is right in my eyes, and hast done unto the house of Ahab according to all that was in my heart, thy children of the 4th generation shall sit on the throne of Israel. But, verse 31, even though God had used someone to bring judgment, and he did that, Jehu did it, he was obedient to that, and brought the judgment and took the crown, still, Jehu didn't give his heart to the Lord. Jehu took no heed to walk in the law of the Lord God of Israel with all his heart, for he departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, which made Israel to sin. Verse 32, the Lord begins to cut Israel short, which means they start to lose land, they start to shrink in size. They lose in battles because they're not serving God, and God's taking their boundaries and diminishing Israel. Now chapter 11. When Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, remember Jehu killed Ahaziah, she arose and destroyed all the seed royal. So the mother of Ahaziah killed all her grandchildren that she could get a hold of, so that there would be no heir and she could be queen. But Jehoshaphat, the daughter of King Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from the king's sons which were slain. And they hid him, even him and his nurse, in the bedchamber of Athaliah, so that he was not slain. And he was with her hid in the house of the Lord 6 years, and Athaliah did reign over the land. And in the 7th year, Jehoiada sent and fetched the rulers over hundreds and captains of the guard, and brought them to him into the house of the Lord, and made a covenant with them, and took an oath of them in the house of the Lord, and showed them the king's son. So Jehoiada the priest shows all of the captains and the leaders in Israel that there is a rightful heir to the throne. Joash should be put on the throne. He makes them swear their allegiance to this young man, this boy. Verse 12, he brought forth the king's son, and put the crown upon him, and gave him the testimony of the books of the law. And they made him king, and anointed him. And they clapped their hands, and they said, God save the king. And when Athaliah heard the noise of the guard and the people, she came to the people in the temple of the Lord. And when she looked, and behold, the king stood by a pillar, as the manner was, and the princes and the trumpeters by the king. And all the people of the land rejoiced and blew with trumpets, that Athaliah rent her clothes and cried, Treason, treason. But Jehoiada the priest commanded the captains of the hundreds and the officers of the hosts, and said unto them, Have her forth without the ranges, or outside the boundaries of this place of the temple, and him that followeth her kill with the sword. For the priest had said, Let her not be slain in the house of the Lord. So they laid hands on her, and she went by the way by the which the horses came near the king's house, and there she was slain. And Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people, that they should be the Lord's people, between the king also and the people. And all the people of the land went into the house of Baal, and brake it down again. Or another point where they eliminate Baal worship that keeps cropping up. His altars and his images brake they in pieces thoroughly, and slew Mattan, the priest of Baal, before the altars, and the priest appointed officers over the house of the Lord. Verse 20, and all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet, and they slew Athaliah with a sword beside the king's house. 7 years old was Joash when he began to reign.